Good morning. My name is Pam Schenk, and I'm serving as today's worship associate. Welcome to all who are here in the sanctuary and all who are participating online. I have been feeling so fortunate to be a part of this community. This is the place, with its people, you, that provides joy, safety, wisdom and insight, acceptance and love. We are imperfect, and we admit that as we strive to become more aware of our areas of hurt. Those hurts that have kept us from being all we can be with each other and in the world. But we're discovering and we're healing together. Since we seek to be accepting of all kinds of diversity and to meet each other wherever we are on our current journeys, we want to also be cognizant of those who have paved the way for us. In so doing, we acknowledge that we are gathering on the original lands of the Erie and of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg peoples, also known as the Three Fires Council. We recognize the need to learn more about these complex and sometimes painful histories, to care for the land we inhabit, and to show respect to the diverse peoples and cultures who preceded us, as well as those who gather now. If you are new and would like to find out more about our congregation, you may wish to fill out a guest card found in the pew rack and place it in the offertory basket later, or you may research our website at uucleveland.org. Welcome, everyone. Our chalice lighting this morning is Cassandra Montenegro, who is serving as part of our congregational life staff for the Unitarian Universalist Association. She will be in coffee hour after the service to meet with you if you would like to. Please join me now in reading our covenant as she lights the chalice. You'll find it on the yellow card in the pew rack. We cultivate trust with one another by celebrating differences, honoring boundaries, and offering compassion and care. We listen to each other deeply with curiosity and wonder. We speak for ourselves without need to defend ourselves or persuade each other. We create safe and brave space for healthy conflict, creativity, and fun. We reconcile through forgiving and making amends when we hurt one another.
Good morning, and thank you to Cassandra for lighting our chalice. I'm really grateful that you're able to be here today. We were going to see if we could spring like a guest preacher role on Cassandra very first time, but I thought it would be great for her to have an opportunity to meet you and to get to know the congregation, and hopefully we'll have a long and fruitful relationship. I am the Reverend Randy Partain. My pronouns are they, them, and I am delighted to be here with you in worship, whether you are here in person or joining us online. I invite you to hear these words from Eleanor Roosevelt as we begin worship today. In the long run, we shape our lives and we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. With that in mind, we enter into a worship service today about what we are responsible for and what we are not responsible for. And we're going to sing hymn number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just As Long As I Have Breath. But before we do that, I invite you to take a moment and greet the people around you, and especially if there's a face that you don't recognize, say, I'm glad you chose to be here today. We have been trying something a little new with our Joys and Concerns Bowl, inviting people to come up before the service and place a stone in the water for any joys or concerns you want to acknowledge. And people have also been good about writing into the book here any joys or concerns that you want to share with the congregation. If you're joining us online, you can do this too. I invite you to just put any joys or concerns that you'd like for the congregation to know about in the comments below the video. And we do have several things in the book today. And first, I want to let you know that John Gibbon has passed away on Wednesday morning with family at his side. This congregation offered such remarkable care to John and Pam during the past few tumultuous months with John's health, and we continue to hold Pam and John's family and loved ones in care during this period of grief. We also hold Kristen's niece, Helly, in healing care as we learn the severity of her breast cancer at 33 years old. And another stone of healing and prayers for Jan. She is undergoing chemo and radiation for stage 3 cancer and is having a hard time. She ended up in the hospital this past week with pneumonia and complications from the chemo. This is Peggy Lagodny's sister, Jan, a stone of healing for her. And healing thoughts for Nan as she recovers from surgery last week. And another comment of comfort, remembering John Gibbon, we all stand with Pam. Thank you. Whether you put a stone in the water or not, there may be someone or someones who come to mind in this moment as we center ourselves in prayer or reflection. I just invite you to speak their names out loud into this space if there's someone on your heart, or if you put a stone in the water and you just want to name it. I just invite you to say their name aloud. Spirit of love and life, animate force that moves through us and within us and awakens us to the connection with you and with all beings. May those that we named, and may those that we name silently in our hearts, know our care. And if we are uncertain, may we let them know our care. There are those on our hearts that we might not be able to communicate with directly. So much hurting in this world, so much violence and fear, and we carry that with us into this space. We can't put it down. We can't let go of it because it's all pervasive. Every time we turn on a screen or a speaker, we hear or see more about it. May we as community hold that grief together, all of our personal griefs and our grief for the world. And may that grief be transformed into hope. And with one another, may we clarify meaningful action that we might take to create greater wholeness and well-being and safety and justice in the world around us. Amen, and blessed be.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Jenny Papp, and I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Development for this congregation. October is our monthly theme for October, our spiritual and worship theme, and in our religious exploration classes is creating communities of compassion, or something like that. Cultivating compassion in UU communities, all the same. So I have this little turtle here, just a baby turtle. Yeah, it's just a baby turtle. And once upon a time, this little baby turtle lived by a big, deep river. And there were other little turtles, and they used to lay out on the logs and get warm and such. But every day from her perch on the logs, she also saw problems all around her. She saw fish in the shallow ponds when the water got too low and they got stuck there. And that made her really sad. Oh, they're stuck together. Made her really sad, a turtle, to see those fish stuck in those shallow ponds. And the reeds, the water somehow wasn't healthy enough anymore, and so the grass and the reeds that the frogs used to hide in and build their homes in and things were disappearing. That just broke her little turtle heart. She was so sad. And the birds were always arguing because they couldn't find enough food. Just wasn't enough fish or bugs or something, but they were always arguing over food. Oh, there was so much to fix. So much to fix. And this little turtle wanted to help everyone. But she only had 2 little small feet. Well, no, she has 4 small feet. She has 4 small feet, 2 small ones and 2 bigger ones. And a shell that she had to carry on her back. And she just wasn't sure what she was going to be able to do. Oh no, I know. She tried running from one problem and then swimming to the next problem and doing something, but nothing when she ran around was really very helpful. And so soon she was so tired she could hardly move. She decided to stop running around from problem to problem. And she sat very, very still. Turtles are good at sitting very, very still. And she did that for a while. And she thought, what am I best at? And what is mine to do? What is mine to do? She realized that she was best at digging little channels with those 2 front feet, those little channels in mud. She could help the fish by digging little paths out of those pools and getting them back into the flow of the river. And so slowly and carefully, she had to take breaks sometimes. That is what she did. She had to do it more than once, water being water. She couldn't solve every problem. She could not make the whole river perfect. But then soon there were other animals noticing what she was doing. And they started helping. They started thinking about what they were best at and what was theirs to do. When each one of us does our part, not everything, we can't do everything, and we get to decide what our part is, but something. Love and healing just starts to ripple out into the river of our lives, right? Just like the water in Turtle's River. The part she touched came alive again, and those fish began to swim freely. And Frog smiled and ribbited a little bit because things were better. Mason, would you like to help me? You can hold that. You hold it right up by your mouth, okay? We do not have to do everything. You go ahead and you start with that one. I said, we do not have to do everything.
We do not have to do everything.
And then you say the yellow. You say the one that's right there, that one that we practiced. Gotcha.
But we can do something.
We can listen for what love asks of us.
We can listen for what love asks for us. And we
right there.
And do it with care.
Yeah. Our compassion ripples out.
Our compassion ripples out. And together we help the world heal.
Thank you so much.
Our offertory today will be used to support the LGBT Community Center of Cleveland. The center offers a large variety of ongoing support groups and forums to meet the diverse needs of the community. The center also features artwork as an expression of the joys, struggles, and lived experience of the LGBTQ community. As quoted from Phyllis Harris, who is the executive director, by elevating these narratives, the exhibitions foster empathy, raise awareness, and inspire actions, ultimately contributing to a broader movement for respect, dignity, and human rights for the LGBT+ community. Here are additional words, this time from the Director of Development, William Marion. When people walk through the doors of the LGBT Community Center of Cleveland, they find more than just a building. They find friends, connection, and a safe place to be themselves. One of the ways they do that is through Trans Plus, a peer-led support group designed specifically for transgender and gender nonconforming people. One of the Trans Plus participants said it best: "When I'm in need, they come through and allow me to express myself. Trans Plus allows me to interact with other trans people and in an accepting environment I wouldn't otherwise be able to experience." That's what your gift makes possible, William continues. Real connection, real belonging, real community. If you've ever felt the power of being accepted exactly as you are, you know how life-changing that is. Your donation helps make sure more people in the LGBTQ+ community here in Northeast Ohio get that same experience. Please place cash or checks payable to UUCC in the collection plate as it goes around. You may also contribute electronically. Direct Zelle contributions to donate at uucleveland.org. Direct Cash App contributions to $UUCC 21600. Indicate on the memo line if your contribution is for today's plate, your annual pledge, or something else. And here, the Zelle cards give you more directions. Those can be found in the donation pew racks. Today's reading is an excerpt from The Art of the Commonplace by Wendell Berry. It is impossible to see how good work might be accomplished by people who think that our life in this world either signifies nothing or only has a negative significance. If, on the other hand, we believe that we are living souls, God's dust and God's breath, acting our parts among other creatures, all made of the same dust and breath as ourselves, and if we understand that we are free, within the obvious limits of mortal human life, to do evil or good to ourselves and to the other creatures, then all our acts have a supreme significance. If it is true that we are living souls and morally free, then all of us are artists. All of us are makers. If we think of ourselves as living souls, immortal creatures, living in the midst of a creation that is mostly mysterious, and if we see that everything we make or do cannot help but have an everlasting significance for ourselves, for others, and for the world, then we see why some religious teachers have understood work as a form of prayer. Work connects us both to creation and to eternity.
Covenantal community is challenging for a number of reasons, but I think one of the hardest things is for us to recognize that we are in the midst of it. We don't stand apart from it. There are so many times we want to diagnose and see what all the problems are with a system or what's going on by standing apart from it. And in covenantal community, we don't ever get to do that. We're immersed in it. And it's hard for us sometimes to hold ourselves responsible to the promises that we make when it seems like someone else is breaking those promises. When I was growing up with a younger sister who started something was a frequent topic of conversation. I'll say conversation. My sister and I were very keen to identify who was to blame for something. After all, if you hit me first, then I should be able to hit you back, right? If you scoot over into my territory on the back seat of the car, then I should be able to invade your territory on the back seat of the car. There had to be a no man's land strip in the middle of the back seat of the car when we were going places together. The covenant says that my promises still matter, even when somebody else has done something that seems out of line. I'm still accountable to my word, even when someone else is doing something differently than what I thought they had promised. Holding covenant is not our instinct. It's not our impulse. It takes practice. And impulsive reactivity has not really served us well as a species, or as a nation, or as a congregation, to whatever extent it's been a part of our relationships here. If our life-affirming values are to guide us, we are responsible for allowing them to guide us, even when our impulsive reactions seem absolutely fair to us. And from the beginning of people, we've been blaming other people for our problems. You and I follow a long succession of human beings down through history who have pointed fingers and blamed other people and refused to take responsibility for themselves and their choices. It's one of the very first stories about people in the Hebrew Scriptures, Adam and Eve. We were going to read that as our scripture, but we chose Wendellberry instead because we just figured everybody knew about Adam and Eve and the story about them doing something they weren't supposed to do. They broke a rule. Adam and Eve both. They both ate what they were forbidden to eat. And when they were held accountable for their decision, they both pointed fingers. Adam blamed Eve and then blamed God. And Eve blamed the serpent. And neither one of them was willing to take responsibility for the choice that they made. Both of them saw themselves as victims. Both of them made excuses. Both of them got defensive. Both of them deflected responsibility away from themselves. I'm sure we don't see that in our own lives paralleled in any particular way. This was people a long, long time ago. We've evolved since then, so much. But I can imagine that both Adam and Eve were anxious in that moment. That's not a piece of what the scripture really says, but I've been a person for a little while. I can imagine that Eve was afraid that she'd miss out on something wonderful. She may have been afraid that God was keeping something from her or not telling her the truth. I can envision that Adam was anxious that he was going to disappoint Eve if he said no. Some of us are afraid of saying no. Maybe Adam was afraid that Eve would be more knowledgeable or more powerful than he was. That's some anxiety. I can imagine that their internal anxiety was driving their decisions. Almost all of us have a propensity to focus outside of ourselves rather than taking responsibility for our own role in things. It's so much easier to blame others or to depend on others to take care of things for us. For a lot of people, it seems easier to be a victim than a creator. And some of us are taught early on to play small. Some of us learn very early in life not to fully inhabit our lives. It's not safe. We need to play small. Hide a little bit. That'll keep us safe. So as we have been talking about bridging the gap between current reality and a vision of shalom, a vision of wholeness, we spent some time exploring how we got to current reality in the first place, because most people and most organizations, which are just groups of people, stay stuck in current reality because they don't reflect on the protective promises that continue to drive their behavior. Those protective promises we've talked about, we make them early in life. They're sacred vows that we make to ourselves before we even know what a sacred vow is, to be safe or lovable or acceptable. Things like, I will never, or I must always, those kinds of things that drive us. That's what we've been talking about with protective promises. And those create some pretty predictable autopilot kind of behaviors that we don't have to think about. We practice it so much as we're growing up and as we are young adults and as we are older adults, it just becomes the way that we are. But it's a behavior. It's not what's at the core of our being. And so examining those protective promises helps us move out of current reality and create another vision for our lives, for our congregation, for our nation, for our world. But we have to learn to take responsibility for the wounds of our past if we're going to do that. We are responsible for dealing with the wounds that caused those protective promises. We are responsible for dealing with the lies that we have believed about ourselves or other people. We are responsible for how we carry the hurts that we've experienced in life. I'm not saying that we are responsible for the hurts. We didn't cause those things. But we are responsible for how we carry them into our future. I'm going to borrow an analogy from my friend Reverend Joanna Crawford, who was at Summer Institute. If you were there this past summer, she was the main theme speaker. And I knew her when. But Reverend Joanna says, imagine that I've got a small piece of glass embedded in my shoulder. For those of you that are really imaginative, I apologize. But imagine I've got a piece of glass lodged in my shoulder, and it's healed over a little bit, but the glass is still there. And every time I bump into you, it causes me incredible pain. And in the midst of that pain, it would be really easy for me to get angry at you and to blame you for bumping into me right where I've got that piece of glass lodged in my shoulder. But that's not your responsibility. It's my responsibility to have the glass removed and to let that heal over as much as it can so that I'm not in pain every time I come in contact with another human being. I might not have been responsible for how the glass got in my shoulder, but I am responsible for tending to it once it gets there. So what is that for you? What is the glass in your shoulder? Because if we aren't willing to bring those hurts into the light and name them and allow them to heal, nobody else is going to be able to do that for us. It's something that we have to learn, to take responsibility for our own inner healing. It isn't easy to take responsibility for ourselves when we've been hurt. Other people can absolutely be a resource for us during those moments and during that journey. But we have to do our own grieving, and we have to embrace that we are worthy of caring for our hurts. We can embrace that we are worthy of caring for our hurts. And if we can do that for ourselves, then we can think about what that is for our community. What are those hurts for our congregation? What are the pieces of glass that we keep in our shoulder as a community? Those things that have happened, those old hurts that we continue to carry into every agenda or every conversation in the parking lot or congregational conversation at a potluck. What are those old hurts that we need to bring into the light and name so that they can heal and we can be the community that we say we are, moving toward greater wholeness, moving toward an embodiment of liberating love? If we want to embody liberating love, I think it's important for us to also take responsibility for our role in a situation and to understand what that is. In every relationship, we have a role. And that piece of our mental model that talks about a reflective life is important for this because it's not always obvious what our role is. We might need to take some time and reflect and say, what am I doing to keep things as they are? And what is my role in moving things forward? If we don't ever take time to reflect in our spiritual practices about where we fit in with things, it's really difficult for us to take responsibility for our part. And sometimes our role isn't very obvious. Our role could be passive or it could be active. But we do have a role in all of our relationships, as individuals and as a community with other organizations, with other spiritual communities, with other parts of our world. And if we can't understand our role in maintaining current reality or our role in moving things forward, we'll stay stuck and frustrated. And part of this, I think, is learning to get complete with people. And what I mean by getting complete is that when there's something that needs to be repaired, when there's been a rupture, that we do all that is ours to do to create repair or reconciliation. There's a lot of times when we might feel like that's really vulnerable for us to do something. When we know that something is broken or something needs fixing, we might wait for the other person to apologize. They obviously know that something is wrong and they need to apologize. And I'm going to sit here and wait. And I will wait for years if I need to. But unless I have done everything that is mine to do in order to invite reconciliation, repair, I'm not complete. I haven't taken responsibility for my part of it. I cannot make someone else forgive me. I cannot make someone else apologize. I can't make someone else do anything. But I can take responsibility for doing all that is mine to do to invite reconciliation and repair. Not in a defiant or defensive sense, because that's just continuing the who's to blame kind of spirit. But with just an honest, things don't really feel right between us still. Or I'm still feeling disconnected from you, and that's not how I want us to be. And I wonder what that looks like for us as a community, as a congregation, with other communities, with other congregations. I wonder what we aren't saying to get complete. Because ultimately, we are the ones who are responsible for living our life-affirming values. If we say we want justice and equity in the world, if we say we care about pluralism and generosity, if we say we are about transformation, then we are the ones who are responsible for living that and demonstrating that in the world. And maybe some of that means we stop spending so much energy focusing on what other people are doing and consider what our part is. As long as our focus is out there and on them, then we stay stuck. And often we focus so much energy on other people's behavior that we don't spend any energy considering our own. Our life-affirming values are what allow us to engage in co-creating a world of greater wholeness and well-being. They're what guide us toward shalom. And so we have to take responsibility for discerning where we are called to be at work in the world. If this language makes sense to you, we're responsible for recognizing where the divine is at work in the world and aligning ourselves with that. We're responsible for actively making the world a better place. Our spiritual work is not just to have an intellectual understanding of really brilliant ideas. Our spiritual work is to create greater wholeness in every dimension of life. And if you don't like the words of our offertory that says, I will obey the Spirit of the Lord, some of us might get a little triggered by that kind of language. But what I hear when I hear those words, I hear, I'm going to mean it when I say that I care about liberating love. I'm going to be in alignment with that spirit of love. I'm going to make sure that my life consistently reflects what I say matters most to me. Obey the Spirit of the Lord is one way of saying that, but there are lots of ways of saying that. So what do I mean? What are some specific examples, you ask? I'm glad you asked. It's good and holy for us to demand that trans people have places of safety in this world. That's absolutely good and holy work for us to do. But what we are most responsible for is how we actively create that here. How we actively create that in our lives and interactions. How do we be people of safety, if that's what we care about? Not just telling other people what they need to do with our legislation, or with our schools, or with our bathrooms, but being the thing that we envision. It's good and appropriate for us to promote anti-racism at the legislative level. How are we actively building countercultural, anti-oppressive, beloved community here? Because that's what we are responsible for. When ICE comes through the neighborhood because we happen to be close to a border and they can do that around here, we have a lot of choices. We can look at that and say, well, I am not responsible for other people's immigration status, and that's true. And our values might say, you know what we need to do is we need to educate people. We need to make sure people know what their rights are. We need to make sure people know how they can be responsible if they find themselves in that kind of situation. And that's a responsible thing to do based on our values. What do we do when we're in the restaurant? What do we do when we see them on our street? How do we respond as people of faith? Because our response in that moment is our responsibility. There's not a right answer. I'm not telling you how to be. But in order for me to know how I'm going to show up, I need to take time in reflection. I need to take time preparing myself. I need to take time understanding what my values ask of me in a very complicated situation. I need to understand what level of risk I'm willing to take. And that takes a little time for me in reflection. And how do I do that and embody liberating love? Is it a loving kindness meditation where I invite all of those people who are oppressed in front of me in my imagination and wish them wholeness and well-being, and then invite whatever ICE agents look like in my mind in front of me for a loving kindness meditation and wish them wholeness and well-being, and invite the people who directed them to do this into my imagination and wish them wholeness and well-being so that I am acting out of a space of liberating love? That takes work. That's our spiritual work. And in authentic community, when we start veering off the rails of our covenant, how do we call one another back in so that we honor our promises and continue to love that person with compassion because they are probably anxious about something? Otherwise, they would be the people that they told us that they were going to be. How do we have compassionate practices here that invite us back into connection and relationship? It might be as simple as saying, you seem really stirred up by this right now. I'm going to still listen to you with curiosity and wonder, and I'm going to trust that as I do that, you're able to get back into a place of cultivating trust, or that you're able to get back into a place of whatever it happens to be. Maybe we need to name it when we feel ourselves going off the rails and say, I am feeling really stirred up by this right now. I am feeling really anxious about what you're saying. And I need to let you know that because I'm going to just take a walk to the water fountain, but I want to come back, and I might have to come back tomorrow or next week, but I don't want to just abandon this. But I can't engage in it right now the way that I want to. Can I have that space? There are ways that we can be responsible for how we show up that might make other people uncomfortable. And that's okay. Our spiritual work is to keep on saying yes to the things that we value consistently, day after day, moment after moment, and to take responsibility for our part in embodying liberating love And before we sing Keep on Saying Yes, or hear Keep on Saying Yes, we're going to sing another song about keeping our hearts wide open. The lyrics are in your order of service. You probably don't need them, but you can use them if you would like. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we consider our responsibility to keep open hearts as we engage in the work of building greater shalom in our lives and in the world around us.
Amen. I invite you to rise as you're willing and able, in body or spirit or both. And this is a song that I think some of you know, but maybe some of you don't know. So why don't we just try some one-line singing. I'll sing a line, you just sing it back to me. So here we go. Keep your heart wide open. Your turn. Keep your heart wide open. Though the waves want to push you around, though the waves want to push you around. Third line's like the first. You got to keep your heart wide open. Now with me. You got to keep your heart wide open until your faith brings you back to solid ground. Ready with me. Until your faith brings you back to solid ground. Let's go right from the beginning all together. Keep your heart wide open. Though the waves want to push you around, you got to keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground. Let's do it again from the beginning. Keep your heart wide open. The waves want to push you around. You got to keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground. Now, Leah Morris, who wrote this song, wrote some extra little counter melodies in here. So I need some low-voiced people, right? Some of you that have a low voice. And so you're going to answer like this, right? The rest of the congregation is going to sing keep, and you're going to sing, I'm going to keep your heart, I'm going to keep wide open, I'm going to keep my heart wide open. Though the waves want to push you around, though the waves want to push me around. And so all these low voice answers, you're going to use me instead of you, right? So it's like a little conversation. You've got to keep, I'm going to keep your heart, my heart wide open. I'm going to keep my heart. You got the idea. So I'm not going to assign parts. I just want you to pick the part that you want. You want to sing the melody? Sing the melody. You want to sing the answer? Sing the answer. So let's try it together. If you're confused, just sing what feels best. Or you can hum or clap or do whatever works. So here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and keep. I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide. I'm gonna keep my heart wide. Oh, though the waves want to push you around. Though the waves want to push you around, got to keep. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open till my faith brings me back to solid ground, till my faith brings me back to solid. Go again, gotta keep, I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep your heart. Though the waves wanna push you around, though the waves wanna push me around, got to keep, I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep my heart wide, oh, till my faith brings you back to solid, One more time. You want to make up another part? Make it up. And keep, I'm gonna keep your heart, I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open. The waves want to push me around, though the waves want to push me around. You got to keep, I'm gonna keep my heart wide open. Till your faith, till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Till my faith brings me back to solid ground. All right.
I have just a couple of things to remind you about today. First of all, if you have not been to one of the Capital Campaign focus groups, there's one happening after the worship service today in the worship center, which I think is 208, might be 206, might be both. But this floor, that direction, there have been a lot of great conversations happening with these groups, and I hope that everyone has an opportunity to participate in them. We are going to do one Zoom group. You're not going to have as much fun in that one, but if you absolutely must, on Thursday evening, we're going to switch that, and it's going to be on Zoom, and there will be details about that in the newsletter and coming out for everybody. But today it's in person, and it's better in person, and room 208, you can get some coffee first and head up that way. Next week, we have our potluck. The kitchen crew is preparing the main dish, but your responsibility is for a dessert or a side that you can bring. You don't actually have to bring something, but if nobody takes responsibility for bringing food, then we'll just eat what the kitchen crew has and say, oh, it would have been so nice if. So, next week, potluck, there's going to be an amazing congregational conversation about some initiatives moving forward with some of our justice work, kind of collaborating with one another and looking at partnership and clarity about what our path is. It's going to be the start of something that we're already kind of doing in some meaningful ways. So I look forward to the response from that. And of course today, Cassandra Montenegro is going to be in coffee hour. If you want to talk about anything going on with the UUA regional staff, there is a job description. So there are some things Cassandra is not responsible for, and there are some things Cassandra is responsible for, and she will let you know about those. If you are visiting with us today, if you're new or relatively new, and you want to just chat with somebody that is a welcoming face in coffee hour today, look for the people with the blue mugs. There are some solid blue mugs, and the people who are carrying those invite you to interrupt whatever they are doing and ask them questions and engage with them about our congregation. They're kind of our ambassadors for the day. If you've been here a while, you can also take a blue mug and be an ambassador if you're willing for people to just interrupt whatever you're doing and talk to you about stuff. We must have open-heartedness if we are to live our values in the way that we envision. And I'm sad that we have lost Jane Goodall, but one of the things that she said is, you cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you get to decide what kind of a difference you want to make. So what can we do in response to the world? We can be liberating love. And we do that when we keep saying yes to our values. We're going to extinguish the chalice before we sing it, but go with peace and courage and deep, deep love.
Please join me in reading the other side of the yellow card for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Keep on saying yes. Feel that strength inside of you. Keep on saying yes. Times of trouble won't last long. Keep on saying